The steeper the slope, the faster you accelerate when you're making a turn. And because of this, on the really steep slopes, you'll often see skiers making a jump turn in order to get the skis back across the hill before picking up too much speed. The problem with jump turns is that they are tiring and they make for a pretty rough ride down the mountain. We might need jump turns on extremely steep slopes, like 45 to 55 degrees, but in most scenarios, jump turns are overkill and not the best tool for the job. For slopes that are about 35 to maybe 45 degrees, then there is a smoother and more energy efficient way of making jump turns. That's what I'm going to try and demonstrate for you in this video. Before we get into refining your steep turns, let's make sure we've got the prerequisite fundamentals in place. So firstly, let's talk about the upper body. So in order to have control on steeper slopes, our upper body position is really crucial. We need to have quite a lot of flex at the hip joint in order to project our upper body down the hill, in order to keep our weight over our skis so we've got control of our edges, rather than falling back into the hill and having less control of those edges. So we're going to project our upper body down the hill. So the other thing about our upper body position for making quick turns on steep slopes is it's easier to make quick turns if your upper body is already facing straight down the hill and we're only having to turn our legs. And when we make turns with our legs, keeping our upper body facing down the hill, us ski instructor nerds like to call this rotational separation. And the thing about rotational separation in this kind of terrain is that it becomes easier if we just split the skis a little bit, and that makes it easier to face my pelvis and my torso down the hill, which makes it easier to whip the skis around quickly in a turn. Be aware though that this technique of splitting the skis changes depending on the snow conditions and the size of the turn you're making. It's helpful for short turns on firm snow, but in softer snow and bigger turns, I wouldn't recommend splitting the skis quite this much. The second tip is ankle flex. It's really easy to fall back on the heels and into the back seat, especially at the end of a steep turn. So it's crucial to flex the ankle joint and have your shins pushing the front of the boot forwards. Number 3, weighting the skis. Don't forget to weight the downhill ski, because the top edge of the bottom ski is the most effective tool that us skiers have at staying in control on steep slopes. The interesting thing about the start of the turn on steep slopes is that because one foot is higher up the slope than the other, it's easier to boost off that one foot. So at the beginning of the turn, we actually boost off the top leg to initiate the turn, and then as the skis come around the corner, we're actually weighting that same leg as it becomes the downhill ski. So at the beginning of the turn, we're boosting off the top leg. The higher your skis come off the surface of the snow, the bigger the impact you're going to get when you come to land. So those big jump turns where you flip 180 and land all at once, quite a rough way of getting down the mountain. So ideally, we want to try and keep our skis close to the surface of the snow. And there's 2 ways that I like to think about doing this. I like to think about keeping the tips of my skis as close as possible to the snow, if not touching the snow. And the flip side of that is I like to think about lifting the tails of the skis up towards my bum. And that kind of seesaws the skis so that they match the angle of the snow, keeps your skis a bit closer to the surface, makes for a smoother ride when you're doing jump turns. Tip number 5 is to spread the friction out. Let's think about the turn as if the skis are going around the perimeter of a clock face. In a full jump turn, the skis come off the snow at midday, rotate 180 degrees in the air, and then land sideways at 6 p.m. Problem with this, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, is that it's tiring and you get slammed with a lot of force all at once when you land. You're putting a lot of strain on your body and trust in your bindings. If possible, landing the skis at 3 p.m. and then skidding them around an arc from 3 to 4 to 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. This allows us to spread out the force and control our speed in a smoother and more enjoyable way of getting down a mountain. Now you might have noticed that sometimes I also use a double pole plant. And this is basically just an energy efficiency thing. I'm trying to share out the workload between my legs and my arms. So I'm using a double pole plant to give me that little bit of help at the upwards boost at the beginning of the turn to take some of the strain off my legs. And you don't need a double pole plant, it just helps at the beginning of the turn a little bit. The thing with a double pole plant on steep slopes is that you need to make sure you get that top pole out of the way quickly, because your tails are going to be whipping through there. And if your pole's still in the way, it's going to block the tails and block your turn, and you're going to get in a tangle. So make sure you get that top pole out of the way quickly. In steep skiing, we're often a little bit closer to the ground. So it can be helpful to have shorter poles. So you can either have adjustable poles that you can make them shorter for the steeper slopes, or you can have extended handles. So you can just grip the poles lower down just for those turns when you want to be a little bit closer to the ground. So there you have 6 tips for skillful turns on steep slopes. Please be advised that skiing technique changes in different terrain and in different snow conditions, as well as on different equipment and to different skier anatomy and physique. So if you've got other ways of thinking about any of this stuff, please put it in the comments below. If you're interested in getting into skiing steeper slopes, this will likely take you off-piste and into the backcountry. And anyone going off-piste needs to have the right safety equipment, to know how to use it, and to take some avalanche and mountain safety training. So make sure you check out the links in the description, where I'll give you more information on how you can get involved. So thank you for watching that. I hope you found it useful. If you did find it useful, please do subscribe. It helps me to make more tutorials like this in the future. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.